Welcome to Women Working in Wealth from the American College Center for Women in Financial Services. Join us as we showcase unique career opportunities and dispel myths surrounding the financial services profession through conversations with industry leaders.
Welcome to this week's episode. I'm your host, Lindsey Lewis. I am the director and chair of the Center for Women in Financial Services at the American College. Today we have the lovely Leah Davis as our special guest. Leah is a wealth and wellness coach, a domestic violence advocate, and speaker. She creates a place where women of color can learn how to live an abundant life. Leah, thanks for being our featured guest today. How are you doing?
So good to be here. Thank you. I'm feeling amazing. I'm happy. I'm alive. I'm healthy, and life is good.
I love for our guests to tell us about themselves as well as where you're at in your career journey thus far.
Yeah, wonderful question. Thank you. And who doesn't like talking about themselves? Actually, some people don't. I happen to enjoy sharing my experience because I think it's just so important to just use my voice and to let it be known on where I come from and what happened in life and where I'm at today. So I am from Northern California. I have a Black father and a Mexican mother. So growing up, I was very closely connected to my mother's side of the family. So I actually sometimes feel more like a Latina than I do as a Black woman. But walking in this world, people see me and they just assume I'm 100% Black. But yeah, and I have two older brothers. And growing up, I grew up in a family where blue collar worker, my father was in construction. My mother stayed at home taking care of us kids. And she didn't get her first job, I think, until I was about 12 or 13 years old. And so from there, that's when she started getting her financial independence. And I started seeing things shift with her, which is something that I now notice and work with on my clients when it comes to being financially independent as a woman and how important that is. And so, early on, I was a young single mother at the age of 18, and I started working in a semiconductor industry as my first job. I think I was making like $12.75. It was like a lot of money then because it was definitely more than the minimum wage. And from there, I started, elevating my career and was an executive assistant for a few years, very young age, working for some high-tech firms in the Silicon Valley. And then it was later on in life, I was trying to figure out what I would do as far as a career. And I wanted to learn about money. So I was, like I mentioned, I was a young single mother, and I had accrued at one point in my early 20s some credit card debt. And I didn't understand credit, and I just knew I couldn't get any more. So I started looking into that. And there was an episode on Oprah about cleaning up your debt. And she had this program, a debt diet. And so I printed out all these forms and paperwork that I think I pulled from her website or something. I put it into a binder because I was serious, and started working on paying off that debt. And as I was doing that, I picked up a book by Susie Orman and learned this novel concept of the fact of having some sort of a steady income if you have income that is fluctuating. And at that time, I was modeling, and I would get this modeling gigs in San Francisco, and I was doing all this work, but then I wouldn't get paid for like 7 to 8 weeks. And so it was like feast and famine for me. And so when I read that in Susie Orman's book, I thought, oh, that makes sense. I should probably get some sort of a steady paying job. So I started doing that on top of modeling, but it still wasn't anything that I felt I was being called to do. I just was very unsettled. And I would see other people around me like starting these careers, and I'm like floundering around. So I actually posted my resume on Monster, and I was approached by an independent firm in Campbell, California. And I thought, I should look into this. Why not? Why are they reaching out to me? So I went, and I was skeptical because I'm thinking, wait a minute, so I can have a career and I just got to get licensed. Okay, I guess I'll do it. And so I started looking into it. I had a friend whose husband was a financial advisor, and I met with him. And then, over time, he just said, why don't you just try coming over at my firm where I'm at, and we can help you get your licenses. And I thought, you know what? He makes a lot of money. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to learn about money while I'm at it. And so I got my Series 7 and Series 66 and became licensed and insurance agent as well. And then started in my career as a financial advisor.
Wow, what a powerful career journey thus far. With all of your background, I'd love to hear how your money story has shaped you personally and professionally.
Yes, my money story is one of which money was not important. And I'll share why, because I was also raised as a Jehovah's Witness. So my parents were devout Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm no longer one. I left that when I was 16 years old. But as a child growing up in that type of a religion, everything is so focused on the religion and not being a part of anything else. So I did not grow up being given any guidance with goals, because what's the point of that when the world is going to end? So don't set any goals, because we're all going to go either to heaven or hell, or you're going to live forever, something like that. So money was not something that was talked about. It was not important, because only people that have money, they're evil. They are, they were looked down upon. Everyone was looked down upon unless you're a Jehovah's Witness. So, I just grew up with this. It wasn't important. And so I had no understanding of money. I had no understanding of the power of money in the positive and negative ways, right? So, as I was growing up, and then, like I said, a young single mom, and I'm trying to understand, like, wait a minute, I have some debt. What does that mean? And then feeling the impact of that. How do I get out of this? It was really confusing and difficult. And so that honestly is why I became a financial advisor. Like I said, I wanted to understand money and know what to do with it. I had no concept of it, really, other than you get money, it goes into your bank account, and you're supposed to pay these bills, and you got to have a good credit score. But I didn't know anything about how to get a credit score, how to review. I mean, it was just like blank slate. And even as I started my career as a financial advisor, looking back now, I had all the education, I got the licensing, but what I really missed and that I didn't have, which is what I completely do now and what I guide my clients with, is having the healthy money management habits, understanding what money means to me. I figured that out now, but back then I didn't know. I still didn't respect it. I had fear around it sometimes. I would avoid it, but I now think about the avoidance was actually a protective mechanism, as I am a survivor of childhood domestic violence and also intimate partner violence as an adult. And all those trauma responses that I was experiencing, I would then have the same thing with money, because it was scary to me at that point, so I would avoid it. And now it's not the case anymore. I'm not scared of money. I just had a conversation the other day with a friend, and we were talking about money. And I said, I'm not scared of money. And it's true. I'm not. It's a tool, it's a resource, and it's something that, is to be like respected and just taken care of, and not to be avoided, and to just chip away at my different goals that I have. And so my relationship to money is now completely different. I value it. I'm so grateful to have it. I celebrate when more comes in, and it feels really good to be in this place in life and to have a true understanding of what it means to me now, and to see what it was like for me in the past and how far I've come.
How important is that money mindset and creating that money management habits and really recreating and reframing your narrative? Now let's take a quick break.
At the American College Center for Women in Financial Services, we're promoting the advancement of women in the industry through research, education, and awareness. Become one of our Women Working in Wealth ambassadors, keep up with our latest news and events, and learn how you can help break the bias at womencenter.theamericancollege.edu.
Let's jump back into our conversation with Leah. I love what you're doing right now. So tell us about your coaching platform and what you do for work.
Yes, so I am a wealth and wellness coach for women of color, and I do enjoy working specifically with women of color, because quite honestly, there's just not enough of us in the financial services industry. And then on top of that, not enough women of color saying, this is who I am serving. And so as a wealth coach, what I do is I enjoy supporting women of color entrepreneurs as they get crystal clear about their dreams. So we'll discuss again, like their money management habits that they are doing or they're not doing that are moving them towards the vision that they have for their future. And then throughout coaching, I provide education about the women's wealth gap, and together we'll work on a doable plan of either short-term and long-term financial stability to protect their wealth legacy. And then on the wellness side, wellness coaching is more of a holistic process that helps women of color understand how their experience of childhood domestic violence and intimate partner violence affects their physical and emotional responses to managing their finances. Because most women who have experienced violence towards them, we have a harder time envisioning our future because we've been in survival mode for so long. And this process, it involves a holistic approach of physical, emotional, and even a spiritual focus to guide women towards feeling safe with money, and then they no longer second guess the decisions that they make.
That is absolutely incredible. For our listeners out there, how could they know if they are, being financially abused or in a situation where money is negatively used against them?
It's all about how it is, if it's in with a partner, right? Intimate partner, it's about that experience of just feeling less than. You'll know that you're in a situation where you're being experiencing financial abuse when you're being withheld from getting a job. And I mentioned my mother earlier. See, my father was very controlling and he was abusive. And now I know my mother was experiencing financial abuse because he would not permit her to get a job. He wanted her home. And we as a family were suffering because there wasn't enough money. So it wasn't until she started working, she started experiencing that financial independence. And I think it was like within a year, she'd saved enough to get her own place. And then she left my father. And that happens time and again when I see women who are ending those type of relationships, they get financially stable and then they move on to prospering in their own lives and setting up their own foundation. So other signs of that is, someone controlling your spending, letting you know how much you can or cannot spend. And maybe it's even your own money and they're not working. I've seen that as well. Women who are taking care of all the finances and their partner is just, spending the money. I have a client right now who is divorced. She's been divorced now for 3 years and she's now recovering from the financial abuse from her partner. And she said that one of her things that trigger her now with her budget, which is what we're working on to work through that process for her, is she started checking her budget every day after she'd left him because she realized that he was just spending all her money. She was working, and she'd come home and there'd be new things and bills are bouncing and all this stuff. And so there's a lot of trauma for her. And she also got into a lot of debt from that. That's the other thing too, when you're experiencing financial abuse where someone convinces you to co-sign on loans or things like that, or credit cards, and they're spending it and they're not paying it. And guess what? You're going to get stuck with it, unfortunately, when you're in that kind of a circumstance. And so it's all about trying to be aware of how you feel in conversation with your partner about money. And it doesn't have to be a partner, it could be a parent or a family member as well. Another form of that could be, which is what I often see for some of the women of color that I do support, is that they may have family members who are constantly coming to them for money because they're seen as the one who's made it. They have what they think is a successful job or a career, and maybe they're the first one in their family to graduate college or be a business owner. And so their family can come to them and may guilt or shame them into giving them money. And so the women, they feel a sense of responsibility because, we want to support and help our loved ones, and will continue to bail out other family members and then leave their own goals and dreams on the back burner. And then they're struggling financially because they keep pulling out money out of their own pot to help somebody else be responsible for their own bills. So those are some of the forms in which I see the financial abuse and things that happen to women of color pretty consistently.
Such good indicators to just be aware of, especially if you are a practitioner or you have your friends, etc. Just take a look and be aware and cognizant of that. Always want to shine the positive light. So, you help women post these traumatic events. And so how do you help women embrace their power and prosperity?
I do that really by guiding my clients to find a way to have and experience joy right now. And I know that sounds kind of like, oh, here we go, be in the present moment, but it is so true. And if we are constantly on the go, which I would say the women that I do support and provide my coaching for, they are movers and shakers. I mean, entrepreneurial women of color are not to be messed with. There's so much that they're doing in their community, for their families, for their business. And if they're working a 9-to-5 job as they're, building out their business, I mean, there's so much that they're handling. And it's really easy to put all the energy and effort into everyone else and to have a lot of comparison as to where I'm at and where others are. Why am I not there? And beating themselves up. So what I do, a lot of my work is in the coaching, is helping my clients get grounded to the present moment, noticing what around them in their life that is working and finding ways to build out on bringing more of that in. So having more of those practice of gratitude, the self-care practices, putting ourselves first some way, somehow, each and every day, making ourselves a priority and enjoying those moments and really appreciating when we are achieving those little goals and big goals. I mean, a little goal such as making it a weekly habit to review your cash flow is something, if it's brand new and you've never done it before, and if there's been any type of anxiety that was there, and through coaching, we start working together to remove that anxiety and have this consistent habit of reviewing your budget and cash flow, celebrating those wins, finding ways to celebrate that and sharing it. And I see it so much where when we are focused on our mindset and being present in the moment and appreciating what we have right here, right now, and letting go of all those things that are no longer serving us. So that's another way as well. What is not serving them? And that is different for everybody. What are the things in life that are not bringing good into their life? And really taking a hard look at that and reducing exposure to those things while doing a lot of feel good activities. And then that leaves room for more feeling good, more joy, more abundance to come into their life on a daily basis.
Thank you so much, Leah. Let's take a break.
Want to join our community of women working in wealth? Follow us on your social media platform of choice at Women Working in Wealth to stay informed about upcoming events, industry developments, and our fellow flock members making waves in the field. We hope you'll join us in our mission to break the bias.
I think it is so important to remember to be in that present moment, like you mentioned, especially when it comes to money stories, because we carry a lot of that weight from our childhoods or the past 10 years. And so celebrating those small wins, whether that is checking your budget, like you mentioned, or even automating your savings, whatever it is, but celebrating that and rewriting that narrative is just so important and so powerful. You mentioned that you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And so what recommendations would you give for an aspiring entrepreneur when it comes to money?
To get your personal financial house in order. If you're aspiring to be an entrepreneur and start a business, you really got to take a hard look at your personal finances. And even if you are a business owner now, an entrepreneur, and have a bunch of things going, how much time are you spending on your personal financial foundation? So what I mean is having that liquid savings available. How much do you need to have there? What's your credit? Where's it at? Where do you want it to be? Do you have access to high quality credit? Because you need to have that high quality credit in order to apply for business loans. So that business capital is absolutely necessary for us to have so that we can grow our businesses and really be successful. And the other one is on the insurance aspect. So I'm often talking to my clients about making sure they have adequate insurance. If you're employed full time right now and you're wanting to start a business, totally take advantage of having your employer benefits, understand them, and really do your homework about what the cost is going to be when you are on your own. How much are you going to pay out of pocket for insurance? Can you get a medically underwritten plan? What's your credit like? I mean, that is the foundation. And again, that access to cash so that it's available when you need it. And then you want to have just a little bit of cash, to start your business out. But that's one of the things as well, is to really, really understand that we do not have to do this alone. And there's always resources available to help. So often the women that I speak with and work with, they feel like they have to do everything on their own. And it makes sense because we are alone so often when it comes to just navigating our professional lives into the corporate world, any type of industry that we're in, maybe even our own families, if we're the only ones that are coming from a place of ending generational poverty. We want to have a wealth legacy. We speak this language and our family has no idea what we're talking about. They may condemn us or shame us. I've experienced that. And I've also seen that happen with some women where families, their hearts are in the right places, but they just don't understand. It's a different language. And so we can feel so isolated and alone. And so then as an aspiring entrepreneur, or those who are entrepreneurs now, tend to think, I got to do this all on my own. And I can't trust anyone and I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to do it. But we already have so many obstacles and barriers that have been put in place systemically, so that when we create these barriers for ourselves, thinking we have to do everything alone, it just makes it so much harder. Burnout is so much faster. Feeling like we're not ever going to get there is insurmountable. But when we start to reach out and when we start to look into community resources that are available to get that business license, to know what kind of entity we want to have, how much insurance we're going to have, what types of resources are available in the community to improve the credit score, and just start reaching out and getting that support, it's such a huge difference when it comes to being able to launch your business and to have it in a thriving position when you get going.
Such an important reminder to have that personal financial foundation and to realize you're not alone. I think as women, we want to be that go-getter, and sometimes it's often difficult to ask for help. But like you mentioned, there are resources out there for us to use and to build our business. And it's already tough enough being an entrepreneur in general. So make sure that you find those advocates, those allies, and become your own personal CFO is how I look at it, right? Make sure that your financial house is in order and understand those dynamics when building a business. So another question, which will pivot slightly, but what are your thoughts about, the business case for women to have careers in financial services, whether it's through money coaching or advising? Like, why do you feel like it's a great career for women?
Well, because first of all, studies show that women, we feel like we don't have the financial knowledge, right? And so we rely on our male counterparts to make the decisions about money, or we go to other people for advice, and it's not always the best advice. And so when we are coming into this career, there's so many different avenues to take, and there's so much information and education and knowledge that's available. I mean, it's constant, right? So we often, what I'm seeing with women too, is like, we want to take care of our families, right? And we want our families to thrive, and we want our children and grandchildren to do really well in life. And what better way than to be in an industry where you're going to be able to have that education yourself and be able to show this to your family, provide this information to your family in your community, and then set it up long term for that lasting, surviving success for your family and community to just do so well in life. And then it can get passed on. I mean, I'm so grateful that I'm in this industry. I had no idea that I would go from being a financial advisor to a wealth and wellness coach. That was not what I envisioned at all, because when I started in my career was, I'll be an amazingly successful, wild financial advisor. It's going to be awesome. That wasn't the case for me, because I'm meant to do what I'm doing now. And I see that now. I'm a great coach, and I enjoy working with women of color, and wealth and wellness is my jam. And so now I'm bringing in, though, that extra element of having that experience as an advisor into my coaching. And it just makes a huge difference for the women that I'm serving.
So good to hear that, having that foundation helps you personally, as well as provides that service-oriented ability for your friends and your family and for your clients. And I love how you stumbled into your niche of coaching and how you have so much passion around it. So our last question for you today is, if you could go back to 18-year-old, 20-year-old Leah, what advice would you give her?
It's interesting. I think about that because when I was 18, I had my first child. So, I think what I would tell myself then is that you don't worry about it. You don't have to have all the answers now. To really just focus on what is helping you feel good right now, and that you're not alone. I mean, I did feel alone at that point. I did for a long time. And to just tell myself then that, you've got this, you're stronger than you think you are, and you're not always going to make the right decisions, but that's okay. This is definitely a journey, and I'm so grateful that I am where I am today, and to tell myself then to dream. I didn't dream then. Like I said, I didn't grow up given any opportunity to have any dreams. And so what are your dreams? What do you envision for your future? What do you want it to look like? How do you want life to feel? So those are the kinds of things that I would tell myself, the advice I'd give to just kind of like what the coaching questions that I give my clients now. Because when I was at that age, I had so much trauma that had been stored in my body. I had no idea of what a future would look like. It was just in survival mode every day, just get up and go. But having a dream is so important. I just wonder how much I would have accomplished at a younger age had I been given the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody about what life could look like for myself in my, mid 20s to 30s. But I didn't have that, and that's okay. I am where I am today, and I'm grateful for all the different turns and curves that my life has taken me on. And I'm very grateful because that does add a whole nother flair and element to how it is that I serve the women of color that I enjoy working with. And I'm able to sit on the same side of the table with them, knowing that, we've got some similar stories, maybe not the same, but I can definitely empathize with some of the life experiences that they have.
Leah just given us permission to dream and to feel and to be in the present moment. I absolutely love that. And such a great reminder that, our journey and our path is our own and that we do have some autonomy over that and we can continue to grow and develop over time. It has been a real treat to have Leah on today. Leah, for our listeners, where can they find you post this recording?
Yes, listeners can find me on my website. Head over to Leah, Leah, coaching.com. Listeners can go ahead and get onto my homepage, scroll all the way down, and sign up to my Women of Color Rising newsletter. And that way you can start receiving some resources and tips that way immediately in your inbox. And then I also have a wealth and wellness community for women of color. There's a tab on my website as well where you can find more information and sign up. In that community, it'll have valuable financial information that's specifically designed for the particular needs of women of color entrepreneurs. It'll be a place of source of healing and transformation as women release the negative effects of childhood domestic violence and intimate partner violence. It's a place to have education about women's wealth gap and show women of color how to overcome those systemic barriers of financial oppression. And it's honestly going to be a place for an alliance for magnificent women who rejoice in lifting up women from all social, economic, and ethnic origins. I'll also have my online course available, Gifting Cash with Intention, and other resources as well. And then you can also find me on Instagram at Leah Coaching.
Perfect. We will make sure we add those to the show notes. And so we are so thrilled that we had Leah here today. Leah, thank you so much. Appreciate you and so grateful for your time.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us, and please leave a rating and review. To keep up with future episodes, subscribe to our show and follow us at our Women Working in Wealth social channels. This has been Women Working in Wealth, brought to you by the American College of Financial Services.